Now that's significant. The Market Research Podcast.
Hi everyone, I'm Christina Costa-Conley and welcome to the latest edition of our Now That's Significant podcast series. Today I'm joined by Alex Smith and Polly Milne from the Sustainability Group, who are going to be talking to us about how market research influences sustainability trends. Hi ladies, welcome. Why don't you start by just introducing yourselves to the audience? Go for it.
Hi, I'm Alex Smith. I'm co-founder at the Sustainability Group. We've been running the Sustainability Group for about 3.5 years. Prior to that, I spent nearly 10 years in the sailing industry, and before that, about 10 years in hospitality. But I've come into the Sustainability Group with my co-founder, Mike, and we've been building the business up over the last few years.
Great. And Polly?
Thank you, Christina. Lovely to meet you and to be on the podcast. Thanks for having us. I'm Polly. I'm the project director at the Sustainability Group. I've been working with Alex and our other co-founder, Mike, for about 2 years now. And I've had a career in logistics and operations and in the sustainability world as part of that for about the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years. Kind of driving the projects that we deal with forward and the development of our platform, which we're going to talk a little bit about later.
Great, thank you. So can you start by telling me a bit more about the Sustainability Group, its people and its beginnings?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, we started about 3.5 years ago. Mike and I were working on a project in a previous role that I had trying to carbon map the world's oceans. Unfortunately, which was a fantastic program and hopefully will happen one day, but COVID put a bit of a side swipe at that, and we realised we couldn't continue doing it. But we realised that we were really aligned with our beliefs around sustainability, and what felt like a very complex, very expensive thing for businesses that they were really struggling with could absolutely be simplified and should be simplified. And what they were looking at and how they were looking at sustainability could change for the better. So we formed the Sustainability Group. There's sort of two sides to what we do. About 10 to 20% we do sustainability consultancy, looking at social and environmental impact projects. And that has a really wide variety of the kind of stuff that we do, everything from sort of life cycle analysis to formation of foundations and not-for-profits, all the way through to a file that we have that's called Special and Ridiculous, which still has to have social and environmental impact, but probably doesn't fit in any of the normal filing cupboards. So that sort of sits on that side, which keeps us really interesting and innovative and new and at the front of everything that we're doing. But actually, most of our attention and our time is spent with our platform Future Plus. It's something that we designed and developed actually through the pandemic and launched in November 2021. That allows organisations to understand, measure, manage, report and improve their sustainability and their ESG reporting, their environmental, social and governance. But it particularly, rather than just focusing on historic data, really looks at what you would like to do in the future and quantifying that. So we give you a score and then all of the support, tools and advice to actually make progress over a period of time.
Great. So what would you say is your ambition for the business and for your clients? You know, what's your ideal for the world out there today?
The one way that we're probably not able to show, but we'd love to change an economy. So the kind of client we want to go for, which small dreams, start small and go big. But what we'd really like to do is encourage all companies, whether they have sustainability at their core as part of their product or their service, to understand the impact that they have with the communities that and the environments that they work in. So whether that be their workforce, their supply chain, their customers, how they operate effectively as a business. And what we want to do is allow them a simple way of understanding the impact that they can have and how they can improve that. And we believe by focusing on those businesses, that's where you can have really substantial change. We can get thousands of companies to do a little bit better. It's much better than getting 2 companies to do really well. those two companies will probably do really well anyway. So that also adds to the, you know, to the movement forward. And that's what we really want, is we want to simplify sustainability. We want to make it accessible, achievable, affordable, which is incredibly important. But also by doing those things, really get people to understand the commercial benefits and the reasoning for why, considering how you operate in your environment can be significantly improved.
So you talk about getting thousands of smaller companies on board. So how do you go about engaging with them? How do you get them on board and broach the issue of sustainability with them? What's the first?
It's a really good question. I think we're in this quite unique position, I think, actually, that people tend to come to us with problems. So actually, it's a really great starting point in the sense that we have this kind of observational point of view that we can kind of see all these different reasons and pathways that people are coming to us. So and it's massively broad. So people will come to us because they have to. They're being, you know, there are compliance reasons that they need to address within their business, you know, in the particular markets that they're in, be that climate related, risk related, you know, financial disclosure, non-financial and non-financial disclosures. People come to us because they genuinely want to be better. They want to be a good business. They want to make positive impact, be that social, environmental, or a kind of a combination of both. They come to us because their consumers are demanding change. That's a really important one. You know, I'm sure everyone is hugely aware of this kind of tidal wave of demand from the public for companies to really be transparent and clear about what they're doing and show that they're not having a negative impact, again, environmentally and socially. And then, you know, so that's a reputational point. So there's this whole kind of mixture of reasons, and commercially as well. Businesses are starting to wake up to the fact that making improvements in your sustainability can help save you money. There are the kind of obvious things like energy, as we transition to kind of cleaner energy sources and conserving energy, but there's a whole load of other considerations in terms of natural resources that we use and talent that we're attracting, retaining you know, good teams is another fantastic reason that people come to us. So we see all these reasons, and that gives us a really good starting point in terms of deciding what's going to work best for each company and how we can best help them achieve those objectives while showing them all the benefits at the same time.
Wow, sounds good. Very good. So there's something, because we've spoken already, so I know the answer to this, but there's something that you do that is, you know, quite different to other companies out there that are offering sustainability strategy and management. And I guess I'm kind of alluding to the market research side of it and how you bring that and data in. So can you just tell me a bit about that and why that makes you guys different?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that. We're really heavily focused on the future of what businesses can do. It's about ambition and intent. What we don't do as an organisation and what the platform doesn't allow you to do, it doesn't say whether you are or you aren't sustainable. We haven't drawn a line in the sand of saying if you get to X%, you are suddenly sustainable. And that's because it doesn't feel like a particularly real world view. None of us are. All of us are on a you know, a terrible word, but journey to get there. I've got to find a different word to that, but it's the one that sort of seems to fit the purpose. So saying that you've suddenly got to X amount out of X, so suddenly all is good, you can stick a badge on and you can move forward, didn't feel like the real world that we were living in. And that it's far more interesting for consumers and for the investment world to understand what that progress can look like and be held transparent and accountable to that progress. But in line with that, what that means as a business, the platform that we look at, it understands. So when we ask with you to register, it asks who you are, what sector you're in, where in the world you are, how many employees. You can share your funding status as well if you're part of sort of investment rounds. So we kind of know who you are and what you do. We then ask what you have done in the past, and we give you a score, an actual score for where that is. But we also, if you're not doing it, we ask if you would like to and within what time frame. So we're capturing data of what businesses would like to do within what time frame, what they do with what evidence with what time frame. And that future sort of focused data is incredibly important, because of, you know, the odd line that lives in the finance world of past performance is no prediction of future performance is absolutely true for sustainability as well. You could be very good 3 years ago. That doesn't mean you will be very good in 3 years if you don't continue to improve. But very much like the market research, that is a huge amount of data that we are collecting about businesses, which we have the opportunity to overlay with materiality assessments, with financial data, to really start to understand what that means and to interrogate that data into intelligence, which is something that we feel has been missing considerably. People are making lots of decisions on opinion rather than data. And one thing that we can learn a lot from market research, we are learning a lot from market research, but I think that relationship can absolutely come closer generally within sustainability world and market research, is understanding the data that you get and how you analyze and create correlation and causation between that data, because that's something that market research has got hands down and has been doing for a very long time very, very well. Whereas the sustainability has always looked in the past. What do people want? You know, what did people do? Market research is often, where are trends going? What are the themes? What is the expectation? What is the precedent? How are people talking about it? And what will they be doing in the future? And that has been the core of what they're looking at. And I think that's where sustainability needs to move to. Where should we be going? What do people want from us? What is the regulation coming? And how should we get there? And what is the most successful way for doing so? And much like market research is mapping itself back to, if you do this, your consumers will want to work with you, or will want to buy from you, and your employees will want to work from you. The same can be said for sustainability, underpinning those behavioural changes within businesses, as I say, to get them better impact. But there's so many lessons that can be learned, I think, between the two.
Yeah. Excuse me. And just as I unmute, I start coughing. So it's interesting because you touched a bit there on kind of what it means for what they get out of it, what it's kind of the success for businesses, because there's a kind of corporate side to it as well, isn't there? It's not just being sustainable, being great. Can you just tell me a bit more about the ultimate outcome and the benefit for the businesses that you've seen that have successfully done this and used your strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge amount of research and data out there which shows that companies that look at sustainability issues see huge improvements. And the way that we, as a business and the Future Plus platform as well, works is that we look at sustainability across 5 key themes. So normally in kind of particularly in the finance world in sustainability, you'll hear this phrase ESG, environment, social and governance. We've actually split that out further because we believe that, to really kind of holistically, I hate that word as well, but to look at sustainability you need to kind of consider 5 key areas. So we look at environment and climate as separate issues because we think they deserve to be split out in that way. We look at social impact, economic impact, and diversity and inclusion as a separate issue. So we have those 5 pillars. As I mentioned in what I was saying before, often we find that when we start working with clients, they're particularly focused on perhaps 1 or 2 of those issues. So they'll come to us because they really want to look at their climate impact, or they'll come to us because they want to explore issues of diversity and inclusion within their business and kind of try and work out what that means for them. But what we always really encourage and have a lot of success in doing is showing them how interlinked those 5 pillars are and how important it is to put them together. So you can't really address your climate footprint without looking at the social impact that will have. And that's not necessarily for your direct employees, but it will be for your stakeholders. And then, the other way around, you can't look at social issues within a business without addressing diversity and inclusion. So I think, the way that our methodology works and the way that our clients use the platform is to be able to look at themselves, as Alex said, their achievements so far, so they have this really good understanding of where they are now, and then they're able to really delve into what they want their business to look like in the next 3 years, which is really unique to what we're doing. And so they can see those outcomes in real time. So every time they can set an ambition, and every time they achieve one of those objectives, they have a rating score which goes up. So an ideal client for us has this lovely kind of upwards curve as they hit those targets, and we very much offer the support to help them achieve those. But I think that for me, that's key, is the fact that often clients don't understand the links between all 5 of those areas, and we can help them unpack that, understand how all of those areas interlink, and then help them make those hit those goals and achievements as they go.
Yeah, and it's great that you're doing it through a platform. That's something that we do as well, obviously use a platform to engage. So, but I guess that's the kind of that added engagement you get with them, not just yes, they are making improvements, but they're seeing it in real time, as you say. It's, great idea that you came up with there. Go on, Alex, you were...
Yeah, no, I was going to say, and to that, and to add to Polly's point, is we wanted to ensure value at every stage of the journey, and for each of the stakeholders that are involved in it. So there's this sort of the commercial benefits are it's RFPs, tenders and proposals, where every single business that is going out for work at the moment, or nearly every business, it will be every business, because is that they are being asked about their sustainability credentials. Absolutely. And 90% of them at the moment, 90% plus, are writing something down very aspirationally, with good intent, with no ability, no concept of measuring it or managing it. And it's often somebody in the business that is a trusted voice. Most businesses don't have the capacity to have a sustainability manager in-house, which is totally understandable, if it's not their sort of the core of what they're doing. So we wanted to be able to create all of these things that you need as a business to be able to win business, to recruit staff, to go out for investment, to get cheaper sustainability linked bank loans, whatever it may be. How do we create that value? And so for us, the outputs of what you're doing are as important as the why you're doing it. It's the sort of the old adage of whatever door is knocked on, that's fine. If you want to come because you need to fill in your RFPs and tenders, that's absolutely fine. But what we'll give you is an actual, is the actual ambition. And if you're working with a supplier and you're or going for a tender and your ambition score is constantly going down because you're not making improvement, or you don't have an ambition, then they're going to look at you and go, well, hang on, then that's not right. So it's creating the commercial value for making better decisions around what your business means, and making it more, which is effectively a risk analysis and looking at resilience of what you're doing. We are constantly asked by clients at the moment to, you can auto report off of the platform. It takes about 3 seconds. So every time you complete an RFP and tender, you can just attach that as a PDF or as a document to what you're doing, rather than starting from scratch. And it covers more comprehensively, I can guarantee, than what you will just come off with, what people will sort of sit and write as part of what they're doing.
Have you been reading my RFPs? It's like, I'm just nodding away going, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest drivers for it. The reason for change at the moment, without going into sort of is that you've got really big pension funds, your CalPERS, your CalSTRs, these are pension funds which have funds under management of 2.5, 3 times countries. They are drivers of massive capital in the world, which it means change, because wherever they put their money is where it's affected. So they are all coming out and saying, we want to have funds that are invested into environmental, social, companies that have a high environmental, social and governance. The reaction from governments, that effectively goes down to Goldman Sachs and your banks. That goes down to private equity, which then goes down to venture capital, which goes, and that streams into your HSBC and your Barclays and your NatWest, of trying to understand what environmental, social and governance is. And even the government, the government procurement, even now, if you want to go through the procurement code for the government, you're looking at modern slavery statement, gender pay gap reporting. This is all included in what sustainability is. It's not just about that piece of carbon in the air. It's about the entire piece. And regulation at the moment is generally focused, but the government are trying to support that through regulation, which is more, predominantly focused on climate, a little bit on environment, waste, water, biodiversity and biomass, but more and more so the social, and then the governance is something that's already sort of existed. But the nature of that is it cascades down and down and down and down until it's somebody sitting at their desk on a Monday morning with an RFP and tender, because everybody above them is demanding the information of understanding what is in the supply chain. And the most underserved people in that entire chain with the least amount of resource to be able to do anything about it are the people that are being asked about it the most frequently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, report it. What are your sustainability credentials? Based on what? In comparison to who, benchmark to how. And so what we wanted to do is, our focus isn't just SMEs, but because of that RFP tender process, that is probably our most, and investment that's probably our most natural area that we found ourselves working in, because they are underserved, they need help. And it was always incredibly academic, or it was very top level, data scraped, plug this in and we'll do everything for you, but had no relevance to what you were doing as a business. And we wanted to turn that in, much like market research again, turn that into an intelligence piece that you could go out and say, look, we've looked into this, we know what we're doing, this is our themes and trends, and this is where we're going. So it's I think again those linkages and that synergy between those two different sectors are actually much stronger, and probably should be much stronger than they are. But that's kind of how we've helped businesses, including market research businesses, to consider what they're doing and how they're going out to win more business.
That's why, sorry, Christina, that's just to reiterate, that's why the platform as well, that kind of format of the platform is so important and works so well, because we really wanted to kind of take all the jargon out of sustainability as much as we possibly could. I think people feel very overwhelmed by the whole thing, quite honestly, and just find it scary and don't know where to start, and it's full of acronyms and people throwing around bits and pieces of language that people just don't understand. And so we wanted to just strip all that away, have a really accessible, simple, easy to use platform that was just like, that people would feel very comfortable and familiar with, and that sets everything out in a really clear way, presents you with a 3-year strategy, allows you to pull a report, allows you to call up someone in our team and ask for kind of advice and support, and it just strips all that kind of feeling of being overwhelmed away.
That's amazing. So, but the platform works, you'd say, for businesses of any size, because you talked about big corporates and SMEs. Does it work at all levels? It's the same fundamental thing that everyone's looking at? Is that right?
Absolutely. So that's one of our sort of core philosophies, if you like, is that any business should be able to be compared side by side equally and fairly. So we work with very small businesses, sort of, 2-man band startups. We work with huge global companies, and the question set kind of expands and contracts in a very clever automated way. So when you plug in those details, as Alex mentioned at the beginning, it sort of slightly filters the questions depending on your size. And that's, obviously you'd have very different expectations from a really small company than you would for a very large company. There's going to be a lot more need for scrutiny there, which is not to say that the way we look at small companies isn't robust and rigorous, but it requires some nuances in the way that we look at them and that we ask for evidence. And then you're asked different questions if you're in manufacturing. Obviously, that has a whole set of implications in terms of the way you use resources and the wastes you discard, the pollutants that you're putting into the atmosphere, those kind of things. But essentially, any company of any size, of any sector, can be compared can use the platform and use it as a tool.
And those benchmarks are available for everyone to understand themselves, as you say, in that relative position, right, within their sector. That's excellent. I think it's, I have to say, it's the sort of tool that so works in our environment as well, in the market research space. It kind of, now you're talking about it, it makes complete sense, which is fabulous. I'm interested, I'm going a little bit off script here, guys, but because I'm really enjoying the conversation, but just I'm interested in how you designed and kind of developed the Future Plus platform. As someone who regularly has to design platform, interfaces, sites within our platform for our clients, how do you get that? Did you get to that process of coming up with the tool and where it is today?
Yeah, I can probably start, and then Polly can finish it, which is probably how it's sort of working at the moment. And as much as, ta-da, Polly, can you keep going with this? pretty much the process that happened. So we started. When Mike and I, my co-founder, sort of came together, we knew that we wanted to build a platform because it had to be scalable. So consultancy is great, and we offer part of advice as part of Future Plus. So we, sort of started to call ourselves like almost an outsourced sustainability department. You can just pick up the phone and we're a trusted voice to ask questions and we'll give advice. But we always wanted, again, to make it something that many companies could access. So it always had to be a SaaS platform. And the idea of the intent was really important. In terms of the methodology that sat behind it, we were confident that we sort of knew how that had to go. However, methodology in concept and in algorithm, two slightly different things. Neither Mike or I have particularly technical backgrounds. Mike is a data geek and loves, he did his master's in risk assessment. So he will talk to you for an hour and a half about a Bayesian statistical model, but still there is very something specific about the algorithm that we wanted to build. So what we did is we've built the platform from user first mentality, which I think has paid massive dividends to us in the time frame that we've been using it and how people use it. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we get is how easy it is to access and how little jargon there is around it, and the sort of the UX of what we're doing. But in order to get that, we decided to work with a UK web development team, and we have the most incredible data scientists, solutions architects that we work with that helps us with the algorithms and underpinning the data knowledge and the data collection behind that. And it's very much a push-pull. We're big believers in robust discussions, not arguments, robust discussions about how that works and what it looks like. There is a natural tendency we found from tech to want to build the most simple piece of tech or the most logical piece of tech. What we found was that they would build that for 6 weeks, but we were going to use it for 18 months plus over that period of time, or 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is until it was sort of redeveloped and evolved. So there was a lot of sort of push and pull in those conversations of saying, no, we understand why you want to build that, but that's not what we want. We need it to do this thing, but the development behind and the algorithms behind and the data collection need to be able to do this. And it was very much a evolving conversation. Some things we got absolutely spot on. Other things, hindsight, we go back and change. And we're now in a period, which you think very positively, of constant development. Yes. Both within functionality of the platform, also on product development, and that's something that Polly leads on for the organization because she is the most organised and all over it person that I've ever met. But it's really key because she was really with us through that build to understand the nuts and bolts of it without going sort of too mechanical. So that we can then go back in and say, yes, we understand it does this, but now it needs to do this because this is where we're moving. And that lives throughout the culture of the company as well, and how we're looking at data. So nothing is ever done. It is always a process. Very much how we're looking at sustainability and that evolution piece, so that our question set is a living question set. So we update it regularly because sustainability changes and our knowledge and our technology and our understanding changes. And that's sort of now, Polly sort of spends quite a lot of time and roles sort of leading that development and change.
So Polly, you're the woman with the roadmaps.
I do love a map. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, and I think just to kind of add to that, it was very much this process of looking what was already out there in terms of how people were understanding and reporting sustainability, and just back to my point I made before, just trying to strip everything out, really focus in on what it is that makes a good company and how you can understand that and build that into the platform. And that came together through really through Mike and Alex's market experience and their observations of what was needed, what was missing. There are other people out there doing similar things to what we're doing, but what we really feel that is unique to us is that kind of understanding of how simple things need to be, how you need to understand again where you are now, where you want to be in the future, and that's come through this understanding of the fact that either things were very academic and kind of crunchy, or that they were sort of based around data scraping, as Alex mentioned, and there was nothing that sat in between that. And as you know, we're constantly evolving and learning and listening to what people are saying, and trying to understand how we can make things better. It's absolutely crucial. Otherwise, I think with a SaaS platform, if you don't do that, you're not going to be around for very long.
And that really resonates with what we do in the market research industry, I guess. So I mean, just on that, because typically we sit here in market research or in research supply saying, oh, people have a need for us, but here we're talking about something that market research suppliers and buyers have a need for as well. So what kind of advice, what message would you give to market research suppliers out there like us, like the agencies that we work with, about their sustainability strategy? What would you say to them?
Yeah, well, come and try people. I mean, I think, as we've said, as we've made really clear, we believe that any business at all can be more sustainable, even if that's just a little bit. And imagine the collective impact we could make if every business just made some small improvement, that it would be so much better than a couple of businesses just doing really, really well. So that is our main objective. As Alex said, we want to create this kind of tidal wave shift. That's really not good English at all. But you know what I mean? in the economy, we want things to change in a really dramatic and positive way. So I think any business thinks, oh, this is not for me because we're just not sustainable and we're not thinking about these things and therefore it's not for us. You need to kind of switch that mindset, because anyone can have a look at these areas within the business. As I mentioned, we look at climate, environment, diversity and inclusion, social and economic. And, it's great for any business to make a start on looking at those areas. I think when I think about kind of market research firms and what might be material to them, I mean, there are lots of things that we could discuss in any one of those themes, but kind of starting with that governance piece, getting your house in order. It's the way that I sometimes describe it to clients, kind of making sure that you have good governance structures, that you have all the right policies in place, that you are being transparent about the way that you're communicating to your stakeholders is really important. People, the way that you hire people, the way that you retain people, by that kind of really focusing on how those people contribute to your business and how as a business you can look after them and their well-being is absolutely critical. Data, how we're collecting data, how we're looking after people's data, how we're respecting that people are provided us with this data and we have a duty of care towards it, I think is really vital. And I think, I guess if I had to pull out one thing, kind of looking at diversity and inclusion is has been a kind of hot topic, if you like that expression, for a number of years now, but I think it's still incredibly important. And that's something that market research businesses, I know have there are conversations going on around that already, but I think it's really important to kind of keep those conversations open, both in terms of the way that data is collected and used, but also the diversity and inclusion of teams working in the market research industry as well. I think it's a really interesting one. Alex, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think the diversity and inclusion one is really interesting, and it's the same for one of the benefits we have of working with companies of different sizes and sectors and geographies is you find that everybody has the same problems, slightly but nuances on the same issues, but effectively the same problems, and it allows us to we can like to think of ourselves as making sort of really offering really efficient solutions, because we've seen people do it really well and do it really badly. But that diversity and inclusion one is really tricky. As humans, we like to live in homogenous societies. Our brains function. We like it when people say the same things as us. We like it when they sound like us, when they look like us, when we hire like us. We dislike conflict and all of those things. And it's a real challenge for businesses to be able to maintain inclusion, because inclusion often means different points of view, which means additional conflict in your business, which takes a longer time to get to decisions because you have to you have to have robust discussions, back to that. You have to have robust discussions within the group of people that you're at, and people aren't immediately going, you are amazing, that is an awesome idea, we should totally do that. They're saying, actually, have you thought about? When our brains go, oh yeah, don't like that. So
Yeah.
all of the research says that teams that are more diverse have better and more successful outcomes and better and more successful financial outcomes. There is, academia is littered with research around it. So we know it works, but we also know that it's really, really hard to maintain. And it's really hard for some people to involve themselves in those groups. So it's something you have to actively embed into the culture of what you're doing as a business. But as Polly said, that other side is when you're looking at data, there are, unfortunately, the world is full of cognitive biases and unconscious biases towards what we're doing and how we make decisions. And if we are presented with data that has biases baked into it, that we are only asking a certain group and we haven't made it clear who that group are, or we haven't considered opinions, themes from other people, that can have a massive ripple effect on how people make decisions. So that duty of care, as Polly said, in that data collection and understanding the diversity and the inclusion of where that's coming from and how it's used, I think is really important for market research, and something that we're massively aware of, and have worked with companies like Relative Insight, doing social listening and asking, and that's part of that conversation of where is that data coming from? Are we looking across the board? Are we, we do a big social listening project with them 3-4 times a year. We did our first report a little while ago, and you have to look at things that you probably wouldn't choose to, like, oh, we don't need to, check the sun. I'm not sure, probably shouldn't name it. We don't need to check the sun, but we do need to check, the feedback and the language and the social listening and the comments and everything from all of these different places, because they all inform something really, really important. And I think it can be very easy to pick and choose. Sometimes the thing that we're learning from market research, and also hopefully we can also expand some of our knowledge into.
Definitely. Have you got more papers, information out there about all of this? So you're just talking about your report. Is that for your clients, or have you published anything on that? Are you looking to, if people want to read up more about what you guys do, is it out there and available? That sounds like a follow the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We have we've got information available on our website. We have an impact report, which we are hugely proud of, which we published at the end of last year. And yes, as Alex mentioned, this series of reports that we're producing with Relative Insight, which our first one is available. So hopefully there'll be some contact information and available to your listeners, and we can, anything that anyone would like to ask or find out, we'd be really happy to help.
Brilliant. And I want to see your sustainability strategy. I want to come back to you in 5 years' time and say, hey guys, how did you do?
So it's all on the website, all of our ambitions. We put ourselves through the platform, and we're I think things like this at the impact report. We're a small startup organization. We have, I think we're just ticked over 10 employees with a couple of part-time people as well. And what we wanted to do was show what is possible if you embed it into your business and make it part of your decision making. Now, we're aware we're a bit of a special case because we talk about it all day and every day, but it is achievable to make it effective within your business model and not an addition to what you're doing. So we're also absolutely prolific on LinkedIn. If you follow us, I slightly apologize because we will be at the top of your feed nearly every day, but we're not going to stop. But there's lots of, a lot of that is around highlighting different pieces of research, talking about the reports that we're doing, talking about work that we're doing with clients, what they're finding, solutions that we found. And we're really, it's as much education and knowledge sharing for us as it is anything else. So, if it is a subject that you're interested in, always keen to hear from people.
Well, I have to say it sounds great. And even just in the last, half an hour that we've been talking, it's kind of, you've made me relax about it a bit more. I feel okay, I can possibly tackle this now. I've got some help out there. So yeah, it's a great thing that you guys do.
Great news.
I'm going to put you on the spot again and ask you one final question, because you've given us so much advice. But if you wanted to leave, if you had to leave people with a message, kind of one final message to take out of today, what would it be? So something to really, set their fires going, as it were. Your final message to everyone.
Do you want to go first, Polly? Or
yeah, I'll go first. I think what immediately sprang to my mind when you said that was people have, I think a lot of people, or maybe this is just me, but I think this is true for a lot of people, carry a huge amount of guilt about sustainability. They every time you open any newspaper or look online or anything, there's something about climate change or flooding or biodiversity loss or species extinction or some awful social impact case study or whatever it might be. And I think people walk around feeling very heavy about that, and rightly so. We are in a poly crisis, and I don't just like that word because it's my name. We are in one where we are facing a huge amount, and I'm sorry to kind of turn this to a bit more of a serious note, but I think it is important that people do feel the weight of that. But there are lots of other reasons to get involved with sustainability and to make improvements to your business, and actually helping the planet or having more positive environmental and social impact, which is the way that we prefer to talk about it, is actually just a really great side effect of that. You can make massive improvements in your business in terms of cost savings, talent retention, finance, or attracting finance, customers, all these things that we've talked about. And actually, as a result of that, your environmental and social impact will improve, and your negative footprint will lessen. So that's kind of what I thought of when you said, what's the one message?
Good message. And Alex, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think just get started is just, going back to what Polly said earlier about being overwhelmed. People won't do something because they don't think they do it very well, and that's very backwards. It's fine. You don't have to, going back to that, you don't have to be sustainable to be able to go to start talking about it and start doing it. We get lots of people who go, we'll do all this and then we'll improve and then we'll talk about it. And we're like, that's okay if that's what makes you comfortable, but just do the starting bit first. And it's amazing once you break it down. It's bite-sized chunks. I'm not recommending eating elephants, but the old, eat an elephant one bite at a time. Go that way. Like, it's absolutely fine. You want to make small changes. Consider where you're getting your milk from in the office and getting your tea bags from. Are they fair trade? Are they properly sourced? Make that your first decision. What singular thing are we going to change today? And then tomorrow, how are we going to make it better for our staff? Have we got a really good maternity, paternity, and adoption policy? Have we thought about menopause and baby loss with the working with the staff that we've got? Do we leave the lights on in the office every night when we go home? Like, it can be small things, but it's about recognizing, and that's what we kind of wanted to be able to do, is we'll tell you all the things that you could possibly think about. That's what we'll do. Then we'll tell you which bits you've done and how you've done them, and if you've done them well, and we'll say this is where you're at. Then we'll tell you where do you want to get to, and we'll help you get to that thing. But it's that, where do you want to get to? That's the most important bit. What you've done, you can't change that now. That's history. That's done. That's hindsight. It's done. Just go right. If we're going to do it, what is it we want to look at? How are we going to look at it? And let's start to make small changes. And that it snowballs because people become engaged. People want to be involved in it. There will be something within D&I, social, economic, climate, environment, that engages with nearly every one of your employees. Yeah. Now, it might not be the same thing, but it will be something. So if you can just give them an opportunity to improve what they're doing within their role, it's going to improve loyalty. It's going to make them understand that you as a business consider and care about what they're doing, the wider community that you're working with, the suppliers that they know and get on with, whatever it may be. So just that's a very long way of saying just get started.
Yeah, no, it's excellent messages, and I take them personally. I almost feel like I've been at a counselling session, guys. Yeah, feeling really upbeat.
I love that. I'm so thrilled that you said that.
We'll be back next week. We'll give you some homework.
Yeah, let's talk again. Let's do it. I'm going to get a couch and we're going to do these. But honestly, guys, ladies, I can't thank you enough, Alex and Polly. It's been a really, really interesting session. I've loved talking. I'd love to keep going, but we must get on with our days. But thank you so much, and I'm sure our listeners will have loved it as well. And yeah, thanks again, and hopefully we'll talk again very soon.
Thanks
Next
so
week,
much.
coffee and a sofa.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Thank you
us.
so much.
Anytime. I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks. Take care, guys. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.